Commander Tae-ho Kim stood at the window of his small ship and watched the crystal planet grow larger. Vex Prime was beautiful, like a giant diamond floating in space. The towers on its surface reached up toward the stars, shining with colors he had never seen before. This was where the most powerful beings in the galaxy made their decisions. "Are you nervous?" asked Dr. Sora Park as she walked up beside him. She was the smartest person Tae-ho knew, always asking questions about everything they saw. "A little," Tae-ho said honestly. "We have waited so long for this chance." Captain Ji-woo Lee joined them at the window. She was tough and direct, the kind of person you wanted beside you in a fight. The ship sensors show 800 different types of alien technology down there. Some of these species have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Their ship, Soul's Pride, was small compared to the massive vessels around Vex Prime. Alien ships the size of cities floated in space like sleeping giants. Some looked like metal flowers, others like geometric shapes that hurt to look at. The human ship looked plain and simple next to them. "Remember what we practiced," Tae-ho said to his team. "We stay calm, we show respect, and we prove that humans deserve to join the Galactic Dominion Council." Ambassador Min-ho Choi walked into the room carrying a thick folder of papers. He was older than the others, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent years preparing for this moment. "I have all our documents ready. Population numbers, technology reports, cultural information, everything they asked for. Do you think they will say yes?" Sora asked. Min-ho was quiet for a moment. "The galaxy has rules. They have kept peace for 3,000 years by following these rules. We just need to show them that humans can follow rules too." The communication system made a beeping sound. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded strange and mechanical. "Human vessel Soul's Pride, you are cleared to land at Platform 17. A guide will meet you." Tae-ho took a deep breath. "This is it, everyone. Today we speak for all of humanity." The landing platform was huge, made of the same crystal material as the rest of the planet. As they walked down the ramp from their ship, Tae-ho saw their guide waiting. It was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and completely black. "Welcome to Vex Prime," the alien said. "I am Guide Kelthera of the Vorthani people. Please follow me to the council chamber." They walked through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some floated instead of walking. Others had tentacles instead of arms. A few looked almost human, while others were so strange that Tae-ho could not even guess how they lived. But all of them stopped and stared at the human visitors. "They look at us like we are animals in a zoo," Ji-woo whispered. "Let them look," Min-ho said quietly. "We are here to change their minds." The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above them. Around the circular room, hundreds of alien representatives sat on platforms that floated at different heights. At the center, on the highest platform, sat the Nexarch Vorthak. Tae-ho had seen pictures of Nexarch Vorthak, but meeting him in person was different. The ancient being was made of what looked like living stone, with crystals growing from his shoulders and head. His eyes glowed with a soft red light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. "Humans of the planet Earth," Nexarch Vorthak said, "you have requested membership in the Galactic Dominion Council." "Present your case," Min-ho stepped forward. His voice was strong and clear as he began to speak. "Honored members of the Council, humanity comes before you today as a species ready to join the galactic community. We have achieved spaceflight, we have developed advanced technology, and we have learned much about the universe around us." He talked about human achievements, the cities they had built, the diseases they had cured, the art and music they had created. He showed images of Earth with its blue oceans and green forests. He spoke about human courage and the desire to explore and learn. But as Min-ho spoke, Tae-ho noticed something troubling. Many of the alien representatives were not paying attention. Some were talking quietly to each other. Others seemed to be sleeping. A few were even laughing. When Min-ho finished, the chamber was quiet for a moment. Then Nexarch Vorthak leaned forward on his floating platform. "Human ambassador," he said, and there was something like amusement in his ancient voice. "Your species fights wars over invisible lines drawn on maps. You worship different gods and kill each other over these beliefs. You pollute your own planet and cannot agree on how to fix it. You speak of unity, but your world has nearly 200 separate governments that cannot work together." Other council members began to speak up. A being that looked like a giant insect clicked and buzzed, and the translation came through their earpieces. They have not even left their own solar system properly. One small colony on Mars, a few research stations. This is nothing. A creature made of living water rippled as it spoke. Their technology is crude. Their weapons are primitive. They would be destroyed in the first real conflict. But the words that hurt most came from a being that looked almost human, except for its silver skin and two large eyes. They are emotional and unpredictable. How can we trust a species that cannot even trust itself? Minho tried to defend humanity. Our differences make us strong, he said. We have many cultures, many ways of thinking. This helps us solve problems in new ways. The laughter that followed was not kind. An Exarch Vorthak raised one stone hand for silence. Young species, he said, you do not understand what it means to be part of the galactic community. We have maintained peace for 3 millennia, through order, through unity of purpose, through predictable behavior. Your species exhibits none of these qualities. Perhaps in 50 standard years, if your species survives its own chaos, you may apply again, said another council member. The decision was final. The humans were not welcome. As they walked back through the crystal corridors, Tejo felt the weight of failure. They had come so far, hoped for so much, and it was over so quickly. I am sorry, Minho said quietly. I thought we had a chance. But as they reached their ship, Tejo heard something that made his blood run cold. Behind them, Exarch Vorthak was talking to one of his advisors. At least we know they are harmless, the ancient being said. The humans are too fractured, too emotional, too unpredictable to ever pose a real threat. They will probably destroy themselves before they become a problem for anyone else. As Soul's pride lifted off from Vex Prime, Tejo stared out at the crystal planet growing smaller behind them. The galaxy thought humans were weak and chaotic. They thought humanity would never be a threat. They had no idea how wrong they were. 5 years had passed since the rejection at Vex Prime, and Earth had become a different world. President Yoonji Han stood in the command center deep beneath Seoul, watching screens that showed activity across the entire planet. The room buzzed with quiet energy as hundreds of people worked at computer stations, coordinating the greatest project in human history. Report from the Luna shipyards, called out a technician. 37 vessels completed this week. Mars mining operations are ahead of schedule, another voice added. Raw materials flowing to all construction sites, Yoonji smiled. When the aliens had rejected humanity, they expected Earth to fall apart from disappointment. Instead, something wonderful had happened. For the first time in human history, the entire planet had united behind a single goal. Madam President, said General Woo Jin Park as he approached her station. The general was a careful man who thought about every detail. The training programs are working better than we hoped. Our soldiers are learning to think differently than any military in human history. Show me, Yoonji said. The main screen changed to show a training exercise in the Australian desert. 2 groups of soldiers were fighting a mock battle. But something was strange about it. Instead of following standard military tactics, the human forces seemed to be acting randomly. Units would suddenly change direction, attack from unexpected angles, or split apart and reform in new patterns. The aliens fight in formations, General Park explained. They follow rules that have worked for thousands of years. Their soldiers are predictable because they are trained to be predictable, but we are training our people to be unpredictable. On the screen, one group of soldiers had just won the exercise by doing something no alien military commander would expect. They had abandoned their vehicles and continued fighting on foot, using the vehicles as explosive weapons instead. Chaos tactics, the general continued. We make decisions that seem crazy to organized minds, but there is method in our madness. Dr. Hyun-Woo Nam entered the command center, carrying a device that glowed with blue energy. The physicist looked tired but excited. The new power cores are ready for testing, he announced. Based on alien technology? Kunji asked. Better, Dr. Nam said with a grin. We studied their designs and found ways to improve them. The aliens build everything the same way, following ancient patterns. But we looked at their technology with fresh eyes and found new possibilities. He held up the glowing device. This power core is 3 times more efficient than anything the Dominion Council uses. Engineer Yoo-Jin Song and her team discovered that if you change the quantum resonance frequency by just 2%, the energy output increases dramatically. Why did the aliens never discover this? General Park asked. Because they never questioned their own designs, Dr. Nam replied. They have used the same technology for centuries. They think newer must be worse, that their ancestors knew best. But human minds do not think that way. Across the room, a communication officer raised her hand. Madam President, we have a message from Director Bay. Intelligence Director Seo Jun Bay appeared on the main screen. He was sitting in what looked like a cantina on an alien world, surrounded by strange creatures, but his expression was serious. Report from Sector 7, he said quietly. Our people are in position on 43 worlds. The aliens see us as refugees and workers, nothing more. They give us the jobs they do not want, which means we have access to their power plants, their communication centers, their shipyards. The screen split to show images from across the galaxy. Humans were everywhere, working as laborers, mechanics, cleaners, and servants. To the alien species, they were invisible, unimportant. The Nexari think humans are too stupid for important work, Director Bay continued. So they let us maintain their quantum computers. The Vorthani believe humans are too weak to be dangerous. So they let us work in their weapons factories. Every species in the Dominion has the same blind spot. What about Captain Kim's scouting missions? Yoonji asked. The screen changed again to show Captain Da-Yoon Kim standing on the bridge of a ship that looked like a trading vessel. But Yoonji knew it was actually filled with the most advanced sensors humanity had ever built. We have mapped every major military installation in 7 sectors, Captain Kim reported. The Dominion's defenses are strong, but they are designed to fight other organized militaries. They expect attacks to come from specific directions, in predictable patterns. And we will not attack the way they expect, General Park said with satisfaction. President Yoon-ji walked to the center of the command room and looked around at all the activity. 5 years ago, Earth had been a divided world with nearly 200 separate nations. Those nations still existed, but now they all work together as part of the Terran Unity Initiative. Status report on the African space elevator, she called out. Operational and running at full capacity, came the reply. Materials flowing to orbital shipyards every hour. Asian manufacturing centers, all production targets exceeded. New weapon designs are being tested daily. European research facilities, breakthrough in shield technology achieved yesterday. American facilities confirm similar progress in cloaking systems. South American training camps. Graduation ceremonies for Special Forces Group 12 scheduled for next week. The transformation had been incredible. When the aliens rejected humanity, they expected humans to give up or fight among themselves. Instead, the rejection had shown every person on Earth that they were part of something larger than their individual nations or cultures. General Park pulled up another display. The aliens made one crucial mistake in their assessment of us, he said. They saw our differences as weakness. They could not understand how a species with so many different languages, cultures, and beliefs could ever work together. But our differences are our strength, Yoonji agreed. A Chinese engineer thinks about problems differently than a Nigerian engineer. A Brazilian pilot has different instincts than a Russian pilot. When we combine all these different ways of thinking, we find solutions that no single culture could discover alone. On the screen, images flowed of the global effort. Scientists from every continent working together on new technologies, military forces training together, learning from each other's traditions and techniques, artists and musicians creating works that inspired people across the world. Dr. Nam approached with a new report. The quantum communication network is ready, he announced. Every ship, every base, every unit will be connected instantly across any distance. The aliens have never seen anything like it, because they have never needed it. Director Bay's voice came from the speakers. He was still on his alien world, still pretending to be just another human worker. The alien species fight in rigid formations with clear command structures. They do not need instant communication because everyone already knows their role. But human tactics require constant adaptation, General Park added. Our forces will be able to coordinate in real time, changing plans instantly based on new information. Engineer Eugene Song entered the command center, her clothes covered in grease from working on the new ships. The stealth technology is working perfectly, she reported. Our ships can appear and disappear at will. The alien sensors are designed to detect large, obvious threats. They cannot track something that moves like we do. President Yoonji nodded approvingly. Everything was coming together exactly as planned. How much longer? She asked. General Park consulted his displays. All forces will be in position within 6 months. Every human agent in alien space will be ready. Every ship will be built and equipped. Every soldier will be trained. And then, Hyunji asked, though she already knew the answer. Then we show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity, the general replied. On the screens around them, the images continued to flow. Humans working, building, preparing. The aliens thought Earth was a divided, chaotic world full of primitive beings who could never threaten galactic civilization. Soon, they would learn how wrong they were. Admiral Kyungmin Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as hundreds of human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They had appeared in the Kepler 442 system like ghosts materializing from empty space. The Dominion forces guarding the mining world had no idea they were coming. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his communications officer. Kyungmin nodded. For 5 years, humanity had prepared in secret. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they had learned. "Remember," he announced to his fleet, "we are not here to conquer. We are here to liberate." The mining world of Kepler 442b was an ugly place. The Nexari had stripped away most of the planet's surface to reach the valuable metals underneath. Millions of Althari workers lived in terrible conditions, forced to dig in the mines until they died from exhaustion or disease. Colonel Jae-sung Park led the first wave of human marines down to the planet's surface. His transport ships landed near the largest mining complex, where thousands of Althari prisoners worked under the watch of Nexari guards. The Nexari were not expecting trouble. Their guards were few and unprepared. They had ruled this world for decades without any challenges to their authority. "Surrender now and you will not be harmed," Colonel Park announced as his marines surrounded the main guard tower. The Nexari commander looked at the humans with confusion and contempt. "You cannot be serious," he said in his mechanical voice. "Humans here? You have no authority in this system." "We have the authority of conscience," Colonel Park replied. Then he gave his marines the signal to attack. The fight was over in minutes. The Nexari had energy weapons and armor, but they fought like they had been trained to fight other organized militaries. They expected the humans to advance in formation, to follow predictable tactics. Instead, the human marines attacked from every direction at once. Some came through the front doors, others through the windows. Still others through holes they blasted in the walls. A few even came up through the floor, having tunneled underneath the building. "Impossible," the Nexari commander gasped as he was captured. "No military force fights like this." "We are not a military force," Colonel Park explained. "We are human beings fighting for what is right." But the real surprise came when the humans began freeing the Althari workers. The aliens expected the humans to simply replace the Nexari as the new masters of the world. Instead, engineer Yoo Jin-sung and her team began converting the mining equipment into weapons and defenses. "This mining laser can be modified to cut through spaceship armor," she explained to a group of Althari workers. "These transport vehicles can carry weapons instead of ore. Your own tools can become instruments of liberation." The Althari stared at her in amazement. No species had ever taught them to fight for themselves before. "But we do not know how to wage war," said their leader, a tired-looking being with 4 arms and gray skin. "Then we will teach you," Yoo-jin replied with a smile. "Humans have been fighting for freedom for thousands of years." Meanwhile, Commander Hai Young Kim was leading similar operations on 3 agricultural worlds in nearby systems. The pattern was always the same. Human forces would appear without warning, defeat the alien overlords quickly and efficiently, then do something no other species had ever done. They gave the weapons and tools to the people they had liberated. Freedom is not something that can be given. Commander Kim explained to a gathering of freed workers on the farming world of New Harvest. Freedom is something you must take and keep for yourself. The liberated beings looked at the weapons the humans had left them with wonder and fear. "What if the Dominion sends reinforcements?" asked one of them. "Then you fight," said Kim, "and we will fight beside you." The real masterstroke of the human plan came from cyber warfare. Specialist Yong Soo-han. While the liberation forces were freeing worlds, he was doing something much more dangerous. He was hacking into the Dominion's quantum communication network. The aliens had built their network to be secure against other alien minds that thought in organized, predictable patterns. But Jiangsu's human brain worked differently. He found weaknesses in their system that no alien hacker had ever imagined. "I am in," he announced from his hidden base in an asteroid field. Full access to their communication grid. But instead of destroying the network or stealing information, Jiangsu did something more clever. He began broadcasting human ideas through the alien communication system. Messages about freedom and self-determination began appearing on screens across the galaxy. Videos of the liberated world spread from system to system. Stories of humans fighting beside former slaves reached every corner of Dominion space. Dr. Sunmi Lee had prepared special messages for each alien species, designed to appeal to their specific psychology. For the Vorthani, she emphasized their ancient traditions of honor. For the Althari, she spoke about the dignity of work when done by choice instead of force. For the Nexari, she challenged their pride by pointing out how their rigid thinking had made them weak. The humans understand us better than we understand ourselves, whispered alien beings. Across hundreds of worlds, the effect was immediate and shocking. On world after world, the enslaved and oppressed began to rise up. They used the tactics the humans had taught them, fighting in unpredictable ways that confused and defeated their alien masters. On the industrial world of Metal Prime, robot workers reprogrammed themselves to fight for freedom. On the crystal farms of Vex Secondary, the native species turned their own growing facilities into fortresses. On dozens of worlds, rebellions erupted simultaneously. The Dominion military tried to respond, but they were completely unprepared for this type of warfare. Their forces were designed to fight other organized militaries in large battles between fleets of ships. They had no idea how to fight an ideology. Fleet Commander Jin A. CO demonstrated the new human way of war at the Battle of Proxima Nexus. When a Dominion fleet of massive warships arrived to crush the rebellion on that world, they found human ships waiting for them. But the human ships did not fight like other species. Instead of forming up in neat battle lines, they moved like a swarm of angry insects. Individual ships would dart in, strike at weak points, then disappear before the alien weapons could target them. Impossible, muttered the Dominion admiral as he watched his massive dreadnoughts being torn apart by ships 1/10 their size. They have no formation, no order, no discipline. That is exactly the point, Admiral CO said over the communication channel. You built your ships to fight other big ships, but we are not fighting the way you expect. The human ships worked together perfectly, but in ways the aliens could not predict or counter. One moment they would be scattered across space, the next they would converge on a single target from dozens of different angles. The Dominion fleet, despite having superior numbers and firepower, was destroyed within hours. But perhaps the most shocking human victory came at the fortress world of Titan's Rest. General Donghyun Park was tasked with taking this heavily defended planet, the site of the Dominion's largest military academy. The aliens expected him to attack from space, or perhaps land forces on the surface for a traditional siege. Instead, General Park did something so crazy that no alien military planner had ever considered defending against it. He tunneled through the planet's core. Using mining equipment stolen from liberated worlds, human engineers bored through thousands of miles of rock and metal. They emerged inside the fortress itself, attacking from within, while the alien defenders were all looking outward for threats from space. This is insane, gasped the alien commander as human soldiers poured out of holes in his own command center's floor. No military force would attempt such a thing. No alien military force, General Park corrected him. But humans do not think like aliens. Within days, news of these impossible victories spread across the galaxy. The mighty Dominion, rulers of space for 3,000 years, was being defeated by a species they had dismissed as too primitive to matter. But the most important victory was not military. It was the victory of hope. On thousands of worlds, beings who had lived their entire lives in slavery or oppression began to believe that change was possible. They looked at the humans not as new conquerors, but as teachers who had shown them a new way to live. Freedom. They whispered in hundreds of different languages, and for the first time in millennia the word meant something real. The galaxy would never be the same. Nexarch Vorthak stood in his private chamber on Vex Prime, staring at reports that seemed impossible to believe. In just 3 months, the humans had destroyed everything the Dominion had built over 3,000 years. How many systems have we lost? He asked his aide, though he dreaded the answer. 47 systems have declared independence, the aide replied nervously. 23 more are in active rebellion. Our forces have been defeated in every major engagement. Vorthak's stone hands clenched into fists. This cannot be happening. The humans are primitives. They do not even have a unified government on their own world. Perhaps, said his aide carefully, that is why they are winning. The ancient being turned his glowing eyes toward his subordinate. Explain. The humans do not fight like us, the aide said. They do not follow our rules, our tactics, our way of thinking. Everything we know about warfare assumes our enemies will behave predictably. But the humans are unpredictable. Another aide rushed into the chamber carrying urgent dispatches. Nexarch, we have received reports from the Battle of Proxima Nexus. Admiral Korth's entire fleet was destroyed. Korth had 50 heavy cruisers, Vorthak said in disbelief. The humans had barely 20 ships. The human ships fought like animals, the aide reported, reading from the battle report. They attacked from all directions at once, showing no formation or discipline. Our ships could not target them effectively because they moved in patterns that made no sense. Fleet Commander Jin-A Seo had revolutionized space combat in ways the aliens could not comprehend. Her ships moved like schools of fish in the ocean, each vessel independent but somehow perfectly coordinated with all the others. When Dominion ships tried to target one human vessel, 3 others would attack from different angles. When the aliens tried to predict where the humans would strike next, they found themselves guessing wrong every time. It is impossible to fight an enemy that makes no sense. Admiral Korth had reported just before his flagship was destroyed, but the military defeats were only part of the problem. The real disaster was happening inside Dominion space itself. Status report on internal security, Vorthak demanded. His aide's voice was grim. Rebellions on 68 worlds and growing. The humans somehow infiltrated our communication networks and have been broadcasting their propaganda directly to our citizens. Dr. Sun Mi. Lee's psychological warfare campaign was working beyond even her own expectations. She had studied each alien species carefully and crafted messages that spoke to their deepest desires and fears. To the proud Vorthani, she spoke of honor and the shame of serving masters who kept them as second-class citizens. To the artistic melody, she broadcast human music and poetry that showed new ways of creative expression. To the logical Nexari, she presented mathematical proofs that their rigid society was inefficient and wasteful. The humans understand us better than we understand ourselves, reported the security chief. Their messages are causing our own people to question everything they have been taught. But perhaps most shocking was the news from the Fringe Confederacy. Ambassador Seung Ho Kim had made contact with dozens of species that the Dominion had rejected for membership over the centuries. The humans are offering them something we never did, reported a diplomatic aide. Equality. Instead of demanding that other species conform to human ways, the humans celebrated the differences between species. They had convinced the insectoid hive mind species to work alongside the individualistic free traders. They had brought together water-breathing and air-breathing species in joint military operations. They are building an alliance based on cooperation instead of domination, the aide continued, and it is more powerful than our empire ever was. General Donghyun Park's victory at Titan's Rest had been the final straw for many Dominion worlds. The idea that humans would tunnel through an entire planet just to win a battle was so far outside normal thinking that it had broken something in the alien mindset. If they can do the impossible, alien leaders were saying, then perhaps impossible things are possible for us too. The revolution was spreading faster than the Dominion could respond to it. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, the freed Althari workers were now teaching their liberation tactics to other oppressed species. On the agricultural worlds, former slaves were becoming teachers of freedom. Most dangerous of all was Dr. Mi Young Choi's breakthrough in quantum-entangled communication technology. The humans could coordinate their forces instantly across any distance, something the Dominion had never achieved. Our commanders are always one step behind, reported General Vex Prime's military leader. By the time we respond to human actions, they have already moved on to their next objective. The human forces moved like a living organism, each part aware of what all the other parts were doing. When one human unit encountered resistance, support would arrive from unexpected directions within minutes. They fight like they share a single mind, one defeated Dominion commander reported, but each unit also acts independently, making decisions too fast for us to counter. Nexarch Vorthak walked to his window and looked out at the crystal spires of Vex Prime. For 3 millennia, this world had been the center of galactic power. Now it felt like a tomb. How did we miss this? He asked himself as much as his aides. How did we so completely misunderstand what the humans were capable of? His chief advisor, an ancient being almost as old as Vorthak himself, spoke slowly. We saw their chaos and assumed it was weakness. We saw their emotional nature and assumed it was a flaw. We saw their diversity and assumed it meant division. And we were wrong about all of it, Vorthak said bitterly. Yes, their chaos is actually flexibility. Their emotions give them motivation we cannot match. Their diversity gives them solutions we cannot imagine. The reports continued to pour in. Human forces had liberated the prison world of Darkhold, freeing political prisoners from across the galaxy. The famous scientist Dr. Hyunwoo Nam had shared advanced technology freely with former enemy species, creating new alliances based on mutual benefit rather than fear. They are doing everything wrong, Vorthak muttered. By our rules, by our understanding of how power works, they should be failing. But they are not following our rules, his advisor replied. They have created new rules, and under their system, we are the ones who are failing. A new message arrived, this one directly from the human leadership. It was addressed personally to Nexarch Vorthak, and it was signed by President Admiral Tae-ho Kim, the same human who had stood before the council 5 years ago, asking humbly for membership. Honored Nexarch, the message began. We write to inform you that the age of the Dominion is ending, not because we wish to destroy you, but because your time is simply over. We offer you a choice. You can continue to fight and lose everything, or you can join us in building something better. Vorthak read the message 3 times before he understood what the humans were offering. They did not want to conquer the Dominion. They wanted to transform it. They are not trying to replace us, he said in amazement. They are trying to evolve us. The old ways of thinking, the rigid hierarchies, the assumption that order required uniformity, all of it was crumbling. In its place, the humans were building something the galaxy had never seen before. A civilization based on cooperation instead of domination. A society that celebrated differences instead of trying to eliminate them. A government that served all species equally instead of favoring the most powerful. Sir, said his aide quietly, we are receiving reports that 43 more worlds have declared for the Human Alliance. 3 of them are core Dominion worlds. Nexarch Vorthak closed his glowing eyes and tried to imagine a galaxy ruled by human ideals instead of Dominion law. It was terrifying. It was impossible. It was completely against everything he had believed for thousands of years. And yet, as he looked at the reports of human victories, of species working together who had been enemies for centuries, of former slaves becoming free beings with hope in their hearts, he realized something that shook him to his very core. It was also beautiful. The galaxy was changing, and there was no force in the universe that could stop it now. President Admiral Tae-ho Kim walked through the halls of New Geneva Station, watching children from a dozen different species play together in the central garden. Human children laughed with young Althari as they chased floating toys through the air. Vorthani youngsters taught melody children how to sing in harmonies that created colors in the air. It had been 2 years since the Dominion's surrender. The galaxy was still learning how to live in freedom. Status report from the Outer Rim, Tae-ho asked his aide as they continued their morning walk. All former slave worlds report stable governments, came the reply. Production is up 30% across the board now that workers are paid for their labor instead of being forced to work. The transformation had been remarkable. When beings worked because they chose to, instead of because they were forced to, they worked harder and better than anyone had expected. Dr. So-Ra Park joined them at the viewing window that looked out into space. She was now the Alliance's chief science officer, and her excitement about new discoveries never seemed to fade. The research station at Vega 7 has made another breakthrough, she reported, by combining human creativity with Nexari logic and Vorthani intuition. They have developed a new form of faster-than-light travel that is twice as fast as anything we had before. And they are sharing it with everyone? Tae-ho asked. Of course, So-Ra smiled. That is the new way. When knowledge is shared, everyone benefits. This was perhaps the most radical change in galactic society. For millennia, each species had guarded their technology carefully, afraid that sharing it would give others an advantage. But the humans had proven that sharing knowledge made everyone stronger. Admiral Jiwoo Lee approached from the military section of the station. She now commanded the Alliance Defense Force, a military organization unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Training exercise results from Sector 12, she reported. Human, Althari, and former Nexari forces working together achieved victory in half the expected time. How? Taeho asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Each species contributed their strengths, Jiwoo explained. Human creativity, Althari determination, Nexari precision. Together they were unstoppable. The Alliance military was revolutionary not just in its tactics but in its purpose. Instead of being used to conquer and control, it existed only to protect the free worlds and help other species achieve their own liberation. Any word from the Dominion core worlds? Taeho asked. Former Nexarch Vorthak has agreed to meet with our diplomatic team next week, Jiwoo replied. He wants to discuss joining the Alliance officially. Taeho nodded. Vorthak had been one of the last holdouts, refusing to accept that the old ways were truly finished. But gradually, even the most rigid minds were beginning to see the benefits of the new system. The former Nexarch had spent the last year studying human history and philosophy. He was particularly fascinated by the concept of democracy, the idea that leaders should serve their people instead of ruling them. It is so strange, Vorthak had said in their last communication. For 3,000 years we believed that order required absolute authority. But your humans have shown us that the best order comes from voluntary cooperation. Ambassador Minho. Choi appeared on the main communication screen from his new office on what had once been Vex Prime. The Crystal World was now the diplomatic center of the Alliance, where representatives from hundreds of species worked together to solve galactic problems. The latest membership applications have been processed, he reported with satisfaction. 17 new species have joined the Alliance this month. They are eager to experience what they call the human way of freedom. And the integration process? Taeho asked. Smoother than ever, Minho replied. We have learned that each species brings unique gifts. The crystalline beings of Shard World have taught us new forms of architecture that grow instead of being built. The gas giant dwellers of Stormhome have shared weather control technology that will help terraform dead worlds. Engineer Yu Jin Song's voice came through the communication system from her workshop deep in the station. The new shipyards are ahead of schedule, she announced. But these are not warships. They are exploration vessels, designed to carry mixed crews to parts of the galaxy no one has ever seen. This was another radical change. Instead of building military fleets to control territory, the Alliance was building ships to explore and discover. Every vessel carried scientists, diplomats, and teachers alongside any defensive systems. We have found something incredible in the Magellanic Clouds, reported Captain Da-Yoon Kim from one of these exploration ships. An entire cluster of species that developed space travel independently. They are eager to learn about our alliance. The galaxy was becoming larger and more wonderful every day. But perhaps the most important changes were happening at the personal level. In the gardens of New Geneva Station, former enemies were becoming friends. Species that had fought each other for centuries were now working side by side. General Woojin Park walked up to join the group at the viewing window. He now ran the Alliance's educational programs, teaching military tactics to any species that wanted to learn how to defend their freedom. The former slave soldiers are the best students, he reported. They understand the value of what they are fighting to protect. And they are teaching us things too. The Althari concept of victory through persistence has changed how we think about long-term strategy. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam's latest report came through on the datapad. The physicist was now head of the Alliance Technology Council, where humans and aliens worked together on projects that none of them could have completed alone. The new medical technology is ready for distribution, his report stated. By combining human genetic therapy with melody energy healing and Nexari precision surgery, we have created treatments that can cure diseases that have plagued the galaxy for millennia. And it will be available to everyone, Taeho said. It was not a question. Every being in the galaxy, regardless of species or world of origin, Sora confirmed. That is the Alliance way. A group of young beings ran past them in the corridor, their laughter echoing off the walls. Among them, Taeho recognized his own daughter, playing with her friends who included 3 different alien species. What are they playing? He asked. A new game they invented, Sora replied with amusement. They call it Galaxy Tag. Each player represents a different species and they have to work together to solve puzzles. No one can win unless everyone wins. Taeho smiled. The children were creating their own version of how the galaxy should work. President Yoon Han appeared on the main screen from Earth, where she was overseeing the final preparations for the Great Assembly. For the first time in galactic history, representatives from every known species would meet as equals. The agenda is ready, she announced. Topics include resource sharing, joint exploration missions, cultural exchange programs, and the establishment of new colonies for species whose homeworlds were damaged by the old Dominion policies. Any opposition? Taeho asked. None, Yoonji replied with satisfaction. Even the most traditional species have seen the benefits of cooperation over domination. Intelligence Director Seo Jun-bai materialized as a hologram, reporting from the far edges of Alliance space where he was making contact with previously unknown civilizations. The species we have encountered in the outer spiral are amazed by what we have built, he said. They cannot believe that so many different peoples can work together without constant warfare. What do we tell them? Taeho asked. We tell them the truth, Sojun replied, that it all started when one species refused to give up on the idea that everyone deserves freedom. As evening fell on New Geneva Station, Taeho found himself back at the viewing window looking out at the stars. Ships from dozens of different species moved through the space around the station, their crews working together on missions of exploration, trade, and mutual aid. 5 years ago, he had stood in the crystal chambers of Vex Prime, listening to alien leaders tell him that humanity was too primitive, too chaotic, too unpredictable to join galactic civilization. They had been right about humans being unpredictable, but they had been wrong about what that meant. Humanity's unpredictability had not made them weak. It had made them free, and in teaching the galaxy about freedom, humans had discovered that they were not alone in wanting something better than the old ways of fear and domination. Ambassador Seung-ho Kim joined him at the window, carrying the latest reports from the fringe territories where new species were still being discovered and welcomed into the Alliance. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the Dominion had accepted us 5 years ago? He asked his older brother. Taeho considered the question seriously. If they had accepted us, we would have become like them. Rigid, predictable, afraid of change. The galaxy would still be divided between rulers and slaves. And now? Now we have something no one thought was possible, Taeho replied. A galaxy where every being can reach for the stars. In the distance, a new ship was arriving at the station. Its design was unlike anything Taeho had seen before, clearly from a species the Alliance had never encountered. The ship's communication systems activated, broadcasting a message of greeting in a language no one recognized yet.